Very good morning. Thank you for joining us. It's another day of strikes today. Rail teachers, university staff and Amazon workers.
And the flipping tube were on strike yesterday, and at 7:45 this morning, they were still closed, all the tube stations. Pernicious and evil.
Yeah, absolutely.
People. We've heard about the government also planning to ban TikTok on government phones this afternoon.
So joining us to discuss this is lawyer Andrew Eborn. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning. Lovely to see you both.
Great to see you. I want to come to TikTok first, actually, because you are our crazy futurist.
Crazy, OK.
You're definitely crazy. You're one of these people who thinks that tech is the solution to all of our problems. You and I regularly disagree on this.
We do, but I'm true. And
I'm wrong.
Right. And I'll tell you what happens is, and all the strikes are going to basically accelerate the advancements of tech and AI and so on and so forth. I've always said that every job that can be replaced or automated will be. The more that people go on strike, the more that it's likely to happen. On TikTok, it's interesting because they're banning it because they're concerned about the sharing of information. The reality is, and we talked about it earlier with David Davis and so on and so forth, every time you use your credit card, every time you use your Oyster, every time you log in with a loyalty thing on a particular store, you're sharing information. All this nonsense about hot air balloons and things like that, so low tech. The reality is we've got all of that information already. And I think looking at that sort of side and waking up and realising that's the current environment we live in.
So is this a gimmick by the government?
I think it's an attack against the Chinese. They own TikTok. This is going to work on that sort of basis, and therefore they're sort of saying, I think you're right, it could be a gimmick. The whole idea, what we need to do is go in with eyes wide open. We need to understand the information we're already sharing. Data is the new currency. That's what we're trading in at the moment. We know a lot about everybody, what they do, what their eating habits are, the reason they're going to die early, and so on and so forth. All of that information is being shared, and it's being shared to various different sources.
So I'm dying to understand. I don't think the government have actually given a reason, a fleshed out justification.
There'll be a statement in the House, in the Commons later, I guess.
There'll be a statement later. So you wonder what they know that we don't know. What might it be that they know that we don't know? Well, I'll tell you,
it's China. That's what it is. They're concerned with it's Chinese-owned. The sharing of information is a rubbish argument because so much of this information is out there already.
Don't we spy on China?
Of course.
GCHQ in Cheltenham?
Everybody does. And I think it's a much more high-tech way, and we've had this discussion before. Hot air balloons and weather balloons sound like nonsense, you know? Nonsense, because it's so low tech. We can basically infiltrate all sorts of information. That information is being peddled all of the time.
But so people watching who've got a lot of children and grandchildren on TikTok, because I think my generation don't even know what TikTok is, really. Would you say they shouldn't be on it?
I think there's so much other social media which is sharing the same sort of information. We've got patterns about people that you'd never have previously. We know more about people with the CCTV footage, which records every step that you take. You'll be able to identify people with facial recognition and so on and so forth. Are you on all of that information?
No, I'm not on TikTok.
Are your kids?
My eldest, my middle one is, but she doesn't post stuff particularly, but she does go on. It's my fear with TikTok is it's just atrophying their concentration span more than anything. I'm not that bothered about the Chinese government whether my daughter's Googled the lip gloss that she wants to look at, but it's more about the fact that it's quick, and it's also feeding them. I suppose in some ways it is feeding them ideologies because the algorithm will work out what it is that they look at.
Absolutely.
and so that training, that conditioning of young minds.
But don't all the apps do that?
They all absolutely, and that's how you're working on it. If something is free, and you're not having to pay for it, you are the product.
I remember just a few weeks ago, I was buying a theatre ticket online, infuriating, took forever, and within minutes I got a theatre company was in touch.
And you will do.
How did they know so quickly?
Absolutely. I'm just looking at the response from TikTok. TikTok said bans had been based because Canada and Belgium have a similar ban. And TikTok said it's based on misplaced fears and seemingly driven by wider geopolitics, adding it would be disappointed by such a move in the UK.
Well, I think the answer is it's China. This is why we're doing it. It's the honest answer. As I say, the sharing of information is happening anyway. What we need to do, and this is the great service that we can do, is educate everybody about it. People always say, and you talk about the revelations, we basically haven't spoken for a little while about Matt Hancock and all those revelations. Everything you say will end up in the hands of the people you don't want to have it in.
But there's an irony. So we're going to get a Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, or a Cabinet Minister going to be in the Commons telling us all about this. And yet we're trading with China, even though it's a rogue state, even though the genocide of Uyghur Muslims, and yet we want the Chinese economy to boom because we want to trade with them. There is a hypocrisy in this,
total hypocrisy. And I think the more that we can do, more lights, less heat, is the sort of sensible way of doing it. Because getting the headlines and saying China is spying on us, yes, of course they are, and we're spying on them, and so on and so forth. There's no big revelations there. So it is political. And I think let's just get to the honest answer on that basis.
Tell us about the strikes, apart from the fact the trains are on strike again today.
Everybody. But interestingly, I'm with you on this, is absolute nonsense. It will accelerate the advance of robotics. It will accelerate the advance of AI, as I predicted many, many times. What I love is
human beings.
Get rid of human beings, it's the end. But we're tired of it all. What I love is Matt. Matt always seems to summarise it. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
In the Telegraph.
And he says in the Telegraph, this is where Jeremy Hunt's back-to-work budget comes unstuck. And he's right. You know, you work on that basis. Industrial action under Khan triples compared to his predecessors.
That's the Mayor of London.
Mayor of London. So he said in 2016, he's going to roll up his sleeves and make sure there were 0 days of strikes during his time in charge. Well, I can tell you, under Mr. Livingstone, there were 35 strikes. During Mr. Johnson's time, there were 35 strikes, which he called a disgrace and a sign of failure. There were 16 under Ken Livingstone. Do you know how many there have been under
It'll be over 100.
It is 135.
And where is he? And why doesn't he come and talk to us about
strikes.
it? Why doesn't he just... He's in charge of transport for London, which is chaos and chaos. And, of course, people might think, oh, it's just London people. No, the working population of London is 9 million. They need the tube.
Oh, you're absolutely
and it was completely closed
and
yesterday.
I'll tell you what's also interesting. I flew in yesterday from the south of France, which is interesting in its own.
As I do.
I've travelled the world. But obviously there was a strike yesterday, Border Force Control. They had lots of people in uniform there. It was the most efficient travel I have had. Best experience I've had coming into Gatwick.
I caught a plane from Heathrow in December. Same to Border Force. They were on strike. The Army stepped in. Brilliant. No delays.
They're shooting themselves in the foot. So what's going to happen? There's more efficient ways of doing things.
And we just want to say one thing to the guy from the RMT. What's his name?
Oh, Mick Lynch.
Who says that one of his red lines for settling the rail dispute is he does not want driver-only trains. He goes to work every day on a driver-only train. What a hypocrite.
There you go. The Lynch who sold Christmas, and then that worked on that sort of basis. You're absolutely right. But interesting, even the people who are on strike are tired of it. Just a quarter of schools, it says in the Telegraph today, basically only a quarter of schools in England closed, and some pupils during the last strike. 27% of schools were fully or partially closed. This compared in February the 1st with 51%. So people are getting tired. Can't afford to do it. You have to do both in parallel. Work out where the money's going to come from. There's no magic money tree. Work out then what's going to be logical. But it's going to accelerate technology. It's going to accelerate disincentives and so on and so forth.
Then AI might replace you.
I am already replaced. This is not me at all. AE used to be AI.
OK, right. So give us some thoughts. Thanks, Andrew.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.